Y'all's the onlyest family I got.
You really think you can keep 700 Union soldiers without proper shoes because you think it's funny? Now where would that power come from?
Welcome to Cocktail Cinema, folks. I am your first favorite bartender, your third favorite author, Josh Price. I'm here with the boys. I got Fozman here.
Glad to be here.
And Shasti.
That's what I say. What's up, Fozman? Hey.
And welcome to the show where we drink drinks and talk movies.
Ooh.
Today's drink is we'll call it a Southern Gentleman. I feel like that's already a drink, but
South ain't too gentlemanly, boy.
well, that's kind of the point. This drink ain't too gentlemanly either.
All right.
So what we've got here is 2 ounces of bourbon. We cut up a clementine and we squeeze some fresh juice into it, and then we just a splash of simple syrup and fill the glass with ginger beer. So it's very similar to a
I
mule.
drank half mine already, and it is delicious.
I guess my ice has been sitting on top.
It's fire.
Yeah, not quite as sharp as a mule. Like the juice really kind of tames it out. And what
Kentucky
separates
mule.
this from like a Kentucky pack mule, aside from the juice, is obviously there's no bitters in this drink, for once.
For once. We have a plethora of bitters in our cabinet now, right?
I think we got 4 different kinds of bitters right now.
All right.
So the reason we went with this drink and specifically with bourbon is we are talking about Glory today, the 1989 film about the Civil War and the first black regiment in the Union Army.
The 54th.
Just real quick,
54.
like I said,
Love
came out
the
in
54.
I love the 54.
I love the 54.
Came out in 89. It was directed by Edward Zwick, known for Legends of the Fall. It had a budget of $18 million, and it only brought back $27 million.
Ouch.
So yeah, not really a hit, although it probably deserved to be.
Yeah, especially with this. I'm surprised by that because of the...
Well, it's got a killer
cast.
cast. Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we can get into it. Matthew Broderick rounds it off. I mean, starts it off with as Colonel Robert Shaw. Denzel Washington as Trip. He's kind of like the instigator. Morgan Freeman sitting right where Morgan Freeman always sits as the mediator. Andre Brower. I'm sorry, as Thomas. Carrie Elwes.
Always.
Sorry. Major Cabot Forbes, his best man. Matthew Broderick's homie, you know. Jimmy Kennedy as Jupiter Sharts.
It's pronounced Sharts.
Jupiter Sharts. He's a stuttering guy, you know. He's one of my favorite characters in the movie,
great.
actually. John Finn, Sergeant Major Mulcahy. I'm sorry. Alan North, Bob Gunton, Cliff DeYoung, J.O. Sanders, and Richard Riley as the quartermaster. You would know him if you saw.
Right. Yeah. He's
That face.
for all those roles that Bill Murray's brother doesn't get. This guy's in them.
Right.
Yeah.
The chunky bald guy you've seen a million times.
With the gravelly voice and the shitty mustache. So real quick, we're going to do our speed summary. So Glory is the story of a newly promoted colonel, Matthew Broderick's character, who is given command of the 1st Black Regiment in the Union Army. And it is their journey from untrained slaves all the way to their most famous battle in the Civil War. Spoilers, everybody dies. It's a very rough film, but along the way, we get to really love these characters.
Amen.
And I think that's where we should start, is characters.
Yeah.
Because this story is based primarily on the Colonel's letters. So Matthew Broderick's character's letters home. So it's kind of stiff because that's how letters were written back then. But the characters are very well fleshed out. So like, even when Greg was going over the cast list, like we had some emotional responses to some of these characters. Like Denzel's character, like this is Denzel's character from Training Day, basically.
Except he wasn't a leader.
Yeah,
He was just like, I don't
he's
give a fuck. I just want
got
to kill.
that spirit. Yeah,
kind of thing.
And then Morgan Freeman being just the older, wiser member of the team.
Voice of
we've got
God.
yeah,
Always.
Jimmy Kennedy, not to be
Yeah.
confused with Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah, right.
You know, as the stuttering sharpshooter, like he's a very lovable character,
Yeah.
and he's just a side character.
And he's actually, you said Everybody Dies. He lives, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he's the only one that
Well,
does.
he kept
yeah.
that Bible in his left hand, like he talked about. Rifle
This
in
is
my
true.
right, Bible in my left.
This is true. This, I think this one's going to be a little disjointed because we're going to be going like, this might be the reason this movie didn't do so well. Like I really enjoy it, but there's nothing about it that necessarily makes it stand out as a critical piece.
I mean, you kind of almost want to hate Matthew Broderick up front because he was kind of given this title as Colonel, but kind of his dad kind of stepped in, was like,
Yeah,
"Look, we got that." But he ended up, proving his stripes.
yeah.
Pun intended.
I had a bit of an emotional journey in the middle with him. Like I didn't like Carrie Elway's character, who's like his right hand man.
I didn't at first, but I learned to really like him.
Yeah, but because he's like Carrie Elway's about halfway through the movie becomes the kind of manager that I always love. Like he's in the fucking trenches with you.
Yeah.
And he's on
And
your
same
side.
with-
He's
same
got
with
your
Matthew
back.
Broderick.
But Matthew Broderick has the opposite journey. In the beginning, he's close to Thomas. Like we grew up together. And as time goes on, he learns that he has to distance himself from his men.
Enlisted
And then
man, yeah.
towards the end of the movie, like he gets back to being himself, and it's really like it's a journey for him, but it's not one that's necessarily gonna stand out to a critic. So it's not something that's gonna draw people to a theater. It's worth seeing.
Yeah, and you brought up this story's kind of based on letters, and it is dry in that fact because it is kind of spoken word for word as far as somewhat of a narration throughout. But he comes off a little bit pompous, a little bit above everything, a little bit, and also comes off scared of what his family might think
Yeah.
or something like that. But he was put in a lot of situations that I overall grew to like about him. I mean, he was the first one up the hill. First
Yeah.
one, he actually he
Yeah.
led the team. I mean,
Literally got off his high horse.
yeah, right, and
Yeah.
sent that guy packing. Just infantry style, just one of you. I think he needed to prove that to himself.
Yeah.
For his family name, I don't know. That's kind of what his growth to me was kind of like getting past the journey of not just being the leader of a black regiment, but succeeding. And
Yeah.
when everybody thought he was gonna fuck up.
Yeah, and I mean, in the beginning, like when this movie starts, he's a captain, and he's very clearly got PTSD.
Yeah.
Like he's shell shocked in every sense
Yeah.
of it.
There's like a
And-
champagne bottle goes off
Yeah.
and he's all spooked or something.
Yeah, and so you can tell that the war has changed him, and they don't really circle back around to that once he's back in a combat
not at
setting,
all, which is
but-
kinda weird, I thought,
Yeah, yeah, great thing to touch on. I'm gonna as a critic, I have to kind of dump on this movie a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm saying up front, I love this movie. It really gets me in the feels every time I watch it. I get shivers every time you hear Broderick say, "Thomas, grab that flag" as he marches into the fort. It gets me. I know it sounds like just a violent moment, but it's like we're moving forward no matter what.
And that's critically, to get back to that, that's kind of why I disliked that part, is because this movie's always going forward. There's really no callback to anything. There's no linkage of past to present. It's only present and future. And there's something to say for that. I think that might have been what he was trying to get across, but it didn't link up the whole movie to me. It wasn't rounded to me, and it was just kind of a linear get there, get done. You kind of knew that they were gonna die. I mean,
I always forget that they all die. I really do. Like every time I watch, I'm like, oh shit, there goes Maddie. Oh, there goes Denzel.
yeah, right at the same time, right in the heart. I mean, you knew it as soon as the one guy, who's focusing the battle, and
The general,
the first line is gonna
heavy
have heavy
casualties.
casualties.
Yeah.
Like, can the 54th volunteer?
Yeah, and he's like, it's very well acted.
Yeah.
Because he's shaking in that moment. We would like
Yeah,
to volunteer.
Yeah.
And
But I
it's-
mean,
yeah.
there's guys who they would. I think it speaks to him as a colonel. They would walk the line with him.
They walked into a firing squad.
And I think the first one he took over and said, I will be shot and killed just by being a leader of a black regiment.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of like, what? We've never had a white man do this for us kind of thing. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where it all started. You know.
Yeah, and a thing in this movie's favor is I always, when I look back on it, I see it as having a little bit of white savior syndrome.
Yeah.
It has way less of it than I remember. Like Matthew Broderick, yes, he's leading the men, but he comes up alongside them in every way.
And he
You
also
know.
lets them lead themselves, and because he knows that he can't be a part of their culture, where they came from. He knows he got a little taste of it when he put Denzel on the whipping post.
Yeah.
Because he knows that that was one of the most powerful parts in most movies that I've seen. Just Denzel looking him in the eyes, back full of scars, stone cold fucking face with one
Yeah.
tear that drops down. Just looking him right in the eye, like I've been here. Don't call me boy.
Yeah.
Like, you're the boy. I've been.
Well,
and he's a natural leader. You know what I mean? And he doesn't even want that. He just wants to fucking fight for his people. I thought that was kind of the beauty part of that movie.
It's
Denzel.
Yeah, and I wonder if this movie is disjointed intentionally because the intentions of the characters are disjointed. Like obviously, Matthew Broderick has very different intentions. His career is the military, so he's there to win the war, win the battle, and Denzel is there to just fight oppression, even though he considers it a losing war. And then we've got Morgan Freeman, who is there like fighting for the slaves that are still slaves. He's fighting for people that can't fight for themselves. And we've got Jimmy Kennedy, who is just, he wants to prove to the world that he's more than just a black man. He's a man, and all of these different motivations make up this incredibly historic regiment. The first black regiment was the first to march into a fort that was never taken.
Never. Yeah.
But
And they knew exactly what the outcome was going to be. And they said,
Yeah.
hell with it, we're going to do it. And I think at the end credits, what do they say? Like another, I forget who was president during that time, but I think it was another 180,000 black soldiers were able to enlist. They all volunteered.
that was during Lincoln's time.
Okay. And they said
He used that battle as like evidence or as a precedent, I guess you would say in law. Like they're good fighters and they want to fight. They brought in another 180,000.
and they're Americans.
Yeah.
And they said that he said that it actually was the tide that turned the whole north to south battle.
Which is saying something because Gettysburg had already happened.
yeah.
For him to say that this battle changed everything.
And they
that's
loosely
huge.
touched on that a little bit earlier in the movie.
Yeah, they mentioned
when he was
Gettysburg,
coming
yeah.
in, but yeah,
Like we'll be home by Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime somebody says that, not only are they going to die, but the war is going to last another 5 years.
Yeah.
No, and then this movie takes place in 1886, or not 1886, 1868. And I want to say the war lasted another year and a half after that.
Okay.
Year-ish. I think it ended in late 69, but I could be wrong. I know, like, when we're talking about this historically, we're still very much on the East Coast. And at this point, Grant has just been given, control of the Union Army. So he's starting to march across the country. But this is probably around the time that you had the burning of Georgia. They're still, like, Appomattox is almost 1,000 miles away. So we're still very much in the trenches of this war. And these men signed on for literally for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
So
Yep, with not being afraid of capture or anything, it's crazy. Another one of the big parts that stand out to me, as far as like the Denzel, Matthew Broderick relation, is when at the end of the movie where they not only die together. Matthew Broderick, he's the first one up the hill, like we talked about. Denzel's the second one. He grabs
picks
that
up the
flag, the colors,
yeah.
because he wanted him to do it as an honor. He's like, no, I'm here to fight, kind of thing. But he dies right on his chest, and then at the end of the very end, when they're getting tossed into a
Mass
burial
grave, yeah.
foxhole, it goes to show, there's you die together, you're brothers. I mean, from high command to private. I mean, like you're all sharing the same blood, same battlefield, same triumph, same loss. And they were just trying to work towards the same thing, and
yeah, and I mean, this movie, I think its value really lies in Black History Month as a talking piece more than it has value as a film. Like, it is a great film. It is beautifully shot. The dialogue it's just nothing to write home about, but it's good, you know. But where this movie really kind of stands up is its place in history and its place in the social dialogue, because this is a battle, you know, you're not taught about in school. You know, I didn't know about this until I watched the movie, and I was in grade school when this movie was. Well, I was born in '91, so this movie would have been circulating when I was in grade school.
And there was really no historical relevance other than it was the first black regiment to go into battle.
Yeah,
basically.
well,
So,
yeah, and it changed the way that, you know, the military was recruiting. It changed, you know, it was one step closer to the civil union that Lincoln was shooting for. Like the world or the nation that we got after Lincoln's assassination was not the nation that he intended for us to inherit.
yeah.
Like his plan for reparations and for restoration was very different than the one that Jackson gave us. So, you know, you look at a movie like this where, you know, a colonel in the military and a former slave are working side by side. You know, they're training. They know that if they're captured, they die the same death. You know, it's an image, a snapshot of the world that we could have had 150 years ago. You know, the nation that we could have had we put aside our differences back then the way that we should have. And now here we are today. Granted, we don't have slaves. We don't have, you know, I mean, maybe we got a civil war coming, but I mean, we live in a world that could be so much better. And you look at the relationships in this movie, and they do inspire you a little bit.
Even the speaking of relationships, the brief encounter that they had when you know, the one of the white regiments was going forward into battle, and Denzel steps up like, you should just turn around right now, send the 54th over there. You know, we're gonna be.
I love the 54.
There you go. And so, you know, one of the white guys gets a little mouthy, you know, starts talking some shit, and, you know, we'll see you later, and, you know, he backs him up, all this kind of good stuff. But then at the end of the movie, when they're going into that small sandy pathway is what they call it, something like that.
Yeah.
The same guy is give him hell, 54th,
Give him hell,
you know, and everybody's going nuts for him. And it, you know, you kind of see the pride that they were lacking through the entire movie. All they wanted was, at the beginning, all they wanted some fucking boots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and shoes.
You know, like these guys.
You really think you can keep 700 Union soldiers without proper shoes because you think it's funny?
And it's rough.
Now,
These
where
guys.
would that power come from?
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Like, not Matthew Broderick, the quartermaster.
The quartermaster.
Jeez. I mean, these guys' feet are bleeding. They, you know, I mean,
Open sores.
you go back to any kind. I mean, they're trailing through mud. I mean, humidity, muck, water. They're next to a freaking ocean. You know what I mean? So it's like, biggest rule of a lot of military is keep your feet healthy. Your feet are healthy, you're good to go, kind of thing.
Keep your feet dry, keep your hands dry.
Exactly.
You're good to go.
So like, you know, give
Well, that
them
was
some
the whole
socks,
thing,
shoes.
is that they were trying to drive the point that no one was going to take them serious, that they were ever going to actually go into battle.
Well, and think about this. They marched just as well as every other soldier, even though their feet were torn to shreds.
Yeah.
Like that, not only does that show a strength of strength, but a strength of character that these other soldiers they were working with didn't possess.
And Matthew Broderick went to bat for those guys, you know, to
You
get
can tell a
that
lot
done.
about someone by their shoes. If they
Yeah.
don't fucking have any, you know what I mean? They can tell you a
Right.
story you probably don't,
Yep.
don't know about.
Yep.
yeah.
So that, and then they were finally given rifles and, you know.
Their suits, you know, just getting
Yeah,
the
their
blue
uniform, the
suits
blues
was,
is a
was
big
really
thing, yeah.
symbolic in the, in
Well,
the,
and
the whole
you know,
script.
ripping up their paychecks.
Yeah.
You know, and
Match Broderick
if you
too.
refuse to be paid, no one gets paid. Like the solidarity that is there is very touching, and it's very it built that team. You know, despite the mistrust between both sides, it really built that team. I want to take this review in a little bit different of a direction than normal. So this is our last Black History Month review, and I got two questions for both of you before we get around to the next segment.
surprises.
The first is, what does this movie mean to you? And what have you learned this Black History Month? We'll start with you, Grego.
I'll kind of wrap it all into one, because I mean, not to broaden it. But I think it's all about change. I mean, if the movies we've watched and reviewed and covered, everyone is capable of it. Even the hardest of hards, the assholes, the silly racist soldiers, the parents that you think were on your side that weren't. It's a mixture of everybody can change, and I think it's they say there's no atheists in foxholes, bring it to the movie, but it kind of comes clean in that fact, as when you see life wanting to live and wanting to build it and just be themselves and fight out of their hole and grab life by the balls. I mean, that's kind of where it comes from. So I mean, I think it's the people that we've talked about. God bless them. Thank you, for your service and being a pioneer. And then to the people, the white folk and whoever else is feeling kind of shitty about their stance on life, and maybe you are a racist son of a bitch. You can change. You know what I mean? I got faith in you. But
give them hell. 54.
Give them hell. So that's my 2 cents.
Alrighty, I can dig it. Shasti?
So what did I take away, and what have I?
Yeah, what
learned?
did this movie mean for you, and what did you learn?
I mean,
this month?
it's a historic movie. I was looking at it more of like the cinematography. I think stood out to me more than anything. But as far as the dialogue or the script, like a lot of the movies we cover between, the 90s and 2000s, where this is 89, but it was really 89. It was more 80s than 90s as far as like how it was produced.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I really took too much away as far as enlightenment, as far as
That's
like
fair.
from a producer standpoint. But overall this month, I mean, the obvious things are there. I think these movies, there's at the end of the day, they're Black History Month. It's great we're doing them. Like a lot of these movies are made by old white dudes. You know what I mean? And they're made for old white dudes. Like we did Who's Coming to Dinner last week, and it's like that movie's made for the person who doesn't know the obvious shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So any of these movies we've done this month, I would submit to anybody to watch.
Yeah. I agree.
Because it's really fundamental shit. You know what I mean? It's really fundamental.
To the basics,
So
it sucks we have to talk about it.
yeah,
Gonna keep bringing this stuff to light.
But you know, it's there. You have
No,
to.
I know.
And
You're
for the film aspect, these are good movies we're picking.
I agree.
All three of them have been great.
Yeah, they have been really good. I'd say this movie in particular, like Shasti said, like critically speaking, it's not anything special, but it's just it's an honest feel good movie. Like it's historically mostly accurate. It makes you feel good about the possibility of bringing communities together without necessarily sugarcoating it. Like all these guys who came together still died together, so it's not like there's a happy ending there. But this movie does make you feel good in the right ways. It's not cheap, and I enjoyed that. There's easy ways to manipulate emotions, and this movie doesn't do that. This month I learned I did not learn enough when I was a kid, and I need to learn a lot more. And I learned the patience and strength of the oppressed communities is far more commendable than I ever realized.
Yeah, that's a good way to
So the men who were oppressed in this film and the men and women who were oppressed in our previous films, my hat, if it weren't underneath my headphones, would come off to you.
Everybody's got to deal with that.
Yeah, so that said, any last thoughts about the movie before we go to ratings?
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
good. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward flick. Yeah.
Any notes on cinematography? It was pretty straightforward.
I mean,
thought.
35 mil dudes in the
Yeah.
editing room. You know what I mean? It's still like it's 89. You know what I mean? Like,
Not quite digital, but not quite old school film.
right. Yeah. But still huge cameras, huge camera rigs. I was trying to find some behind the scenes stuff that wasn't just like based on the history and how accurate some of these aspects were. That's stuff I'm always like trying to prove wrong. It's like, all right, give me some juicy, But really, the rigs they had out there in the middle of these fields, you know what I mean, for these war scenes, like seeing anytime you can take a step back and see how a film is shot, it's just shocking. You know what I mean? Like,
well, in a time before IMAX, like this would have been done as an IMAX film.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, 100%,
and getting that
100%,
aspect,
yeah,
it's commendable. But Other than that, I think we've kind of touched on everything. This is the part of the show where we talk tacos.
Tacos?
Out of 1,000 tacos,
Spoiled tacos. We're doing spoiled tacos.
Out of 1,000 tacos, what's your taco
1,000?
rating? Well, you always go out of 1,000. Me and Shasti do
1,000.
Yeah.
1,000. 1,000 tacos.
All right.
You're always doing 0.5.
You know, I actually didn't think about this one as much as I usually do. Yeah, I'm not gonna give this one a very high score, guys. I'm gonna go with a. I hate to say it, like a 76.
Okay.
76.
Okay.
76.
You're
Even.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I think it's
going-
worth a watch, but I mean, it's not. I don't think
Everyone should watch it. Just for the even before we were recording, you were talking about how like Denzel like ageless. You know what I mean? Morgan
Yeah.
Freeman ageless. Like you know these people. Matthew Broderick ageless too. You know what I mean? You look back at it and it's like I didn't even realize till after I watched and did like a good amount of research. Like usually years like it's probably on the bottom of the screen the whole time. It was like 89. Like really? You know what I mean?
Wait, you hold on.
I'm just saying because it's an 80. All right, so because it's 1989, I'm gonna give it an 81.
Okay.
Dang.
I'm giving it a
We got a
little
76 and 81.
Yeah.
Can I go back one time just to say
Yeah.
there was a high point in that movie where Morgan Freeman bitch slapped Denzel?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I just
Yeah,
had to get that
yeah.
out there.
Yes.
Big
Yes.
time.
He had
Yeah.
some choice words from him too.
He did. And, it may have inspired a speech around fences.
Oh my god! Don't get me started. That was not a big
All
fan
right.
of fences.
All right. My taco rating, I'm going to shock you both.
Shock.
This gets an even 70.
Yeah.
70.
As a film, I have to rate it a little bit lower. However, as an experience, everybody should watch it, and it's worth watching. It gets your emotions going. And like I said, it's not cheap about it. It's
Yeah.
this
Sorry,
is the first
tomato
time we've
meter.
underrated a movie.
This
I don't
movie.
think so. Not,
I think
not by that.
I
Score,
think
yeah.
the Rotten Tomato score is probably based mostly on emotions and cinematography. Dialogue's okay. It's period correct.
Yeah, there's
It's
not
nothing
much to it.
special.
I mean,
The speeches don't really stand out to you.
No, I mean, you know what I liked about this movie too. I'm sorry, I know we're kind of closing, but how Matthew Broderick and his officers they didn't in this movie. They didn't take away the culture. They didn't whitewash this. You know what I mean? Like they let them be themselves. And sorry, I had to get
They
that
would
one out
sing
there.
at the end of the night. Yeah,
You know
yeah.
they're having fun. They're singing. They're doing their thing. I think that's a huge part of especially in a critic's eye of the movies that we've watched. I mean, there's so many of them that it's just whitewashed nonsense. We talked
Yeah.
about the directors are old white guys usually. They gave them that. Not.
Well, I think this
them,
was
but-
a young white guy, so still
for sure.
somebody who was hip to the jive. I think they would say in '89.
Oh jeez. I can wear my duster. They
Okay.
weren't.
All right.
That's a different movie.
So, this has been our review of Glory. Now, I'm forgetting something. Oh, that's right. I wrote a book. Josh Price wrote a book called Reaper. You can find it on Amazon.com, BarnesNoble.com, anywhere online you buy your books. It is a young adult fantasy novel and the first in a series. Please go buy my book. Please. If you search Josh Price Reaper, it will be the first thing that comes up for you. All my personal business aside, we're actually going to be filming the first episodes of a new show tonight called Director's Cut. You'll find it right here on YouTube. For those of you listening on Podbean, hop on over to the YouTube channel and check out Director's Cut, where Greg, Shasti, and I talk about directors. Our first 3 episodes will be about James Cameron. If you find yourself on the YouTube channel, you can also find the video versions of all of our podcasts, which you may be watching right now, and you'll find thesis statement. If you like what you see, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so that you get notified every time we put up a new video. We release once a week at least, sometimes releasing 2 to 3 times a week if we can.
Subscribe.
Absolutely. That said, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find in the description down below the link to our Patreon. Otherwise, just hop on over to patreon.com/priceisright. That will be changing soon. And you'll find our Patreon. I say it'll be changing soon because we are growing as a company. And we are about to take a big leap and take on a new name. We're going to be calling ourselves Sippable Opinions. Obvious reasons.
I'm out. I'm sipping too much.
Yeah. So that's all the fun behind the scenes stuff. You can find me on Twitter at ThePriceIsRight312. You can find me on Insta at TheForgetfulWriter312. Gregory, tell me stuff.
Fozcaster on Twitter. Really pumped for these new episodes. Josh has been killing it on his other his other production, Joker, Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Check those out. He's got a lot of stuff coming too. I'm excited, so you guys should be too.
Have fun stuff. Fun stuff. Shasti,
you guys
tell me about you.
You guys can find me right here. Episodes released every Sunday. If you're still listening at this point, or if you're watching on YouTube, just like and subscribe. It's a free way to support us.
Absolutely.
Keep us doing what we want to do.
So we'd like to shout out our patrons. We see you, we hear you, we love you. We'd like to shout out all the makers of our gear from Peluso to Apple, and we'd also like to say goodbye.